a plot to drop the IQ. Fighting amongst each other over rumors that don't like you. Prefer us trapped in melancholy with the wood ones of holly. Suggestions that obliterate to camouflage the folly. Attempted mental robbery, executed softly. The hypocrisy, this mockery, and walk the talk with me. Put the hands up to touch the Akasha, cause you know deep down there's something bigger than your wallet.
Sweet eternal balance of all that is good, true, and beautiful, friends. We have a very special guest tonight on Middle Path. He has been a longtime favorite guest on Rogueways and on Middle Path, and it is fantastic to have my good friend and teacher, the man of a million skills and techniques, the master of philosophy, medicine, healing, and alchemy, and a brilliant mind gracious enough to share with all of us. Phoenix Aurelius, back to talk to us about all things awesome. How are you? And welcome to Middle Path again.
Hey, thanks so much. You always make me blush during all of those intros.
Just have to layer it on.
Yeah, seriously, man. I was like, oh, where's the top layer of this frosting?
You deserve it. You have, I'm sure there's even more I could list about how amazing you are, but I do really want everyone to go check out. They can get to your site, especially through rogueways.org, and that way you're supporting Rogueways for anything that you purchase without paying any extra, which is awesome. But I really want everyone to go check out that calendar because you have a few left, and they're on super discount right now, and I got one and I love it. I don't understand all of it, but I'm teaching myself more and more as I go because it has so much in it. Actually, I would love for you to share with people what it's all about if you want to.
Oh man, I would totally love to. This is something, so for those of you who don't know what the hell she's talking about, this is the Astronomological Calendar 2022. Now, for years, I've been trying to medically split test different types of astrology styles specifically for medical astrology, but also for creating products in the laboratory and then also growing things in the garden. So, you know, I've seen astrology applied to a pretty broad field, and I really love growing mushrooms and plants and things like that in the garden with astronomical cycles because they are not like humans. They can't be like, oh yeah, that's totally my experience, when it isn't. It's either obvious to you as an objective perspective or it isn't what type of value there is. So for years, I've been split testing all of these different styles of astrology. And what I landed on was sidereal astrology, specifically the style and because when you talk about sidereal astrology or tropical astrology, those are the two main kind of branches, and thought there are lots of different ways of calculating each of those, not just like with the house system, but for instance, Vedic astrology is sidereal. And that's one style of sidereal astrology. And within Vedic astrology, there are like 10 different ways that it can all be calculated. So it's just really, really amazing how much variance there is. So I found one particular astrologer named Athan Chimenti of masteringthezodiac.com years ago and started using his online calculator after realizing that what he basically did was he took all of the constellations around the ecliptic, of which there are technically 13. Ophiuchus is technically a little sliver of it is along the ecliptic, and so we count that one in this system. And what he did was he actually took the size of the constellations in the sky as they actually are. And for astrology purposes, you can't have, like, for instance, if this is, you know, the end of Leo and the beginning of Virgo is over here, all that space in between astrologically is called void of course. And except for moon calculations, and even for personal charts, really, for like any sort of personalization or divination purpose, you can't say, oh, Mars is void of course between Leo and Virgo. Like, well, what does that mean? So basically what he did was he drew the midpoint between where one ends and the other begins and just extended both of them like this, considering the 3 degrees on either side of that change as somewhat of a blend of those two energies. And when I started using his system for medical astrology, I was able to clear up what Paracelsus would have defined as ens astrale, or the cause of disease due to the stars, using intrinsic data field frequencies of just the position of that person's birth or the planet and the constellation at the time of that person's birth as a custom tuning. And so I was like, whoa, I'm really excited. And since then, I started using that same calculation for the garden and using that same calculation for other different types of things as well, like extraction in the laboratory when we perform our distillations and so on and so forth. And we found through intrinsic data field processing data, we can confirm the same things that we're seeing in our notes and in our own experiences anecdotally, that this is hands down the most correct form for these particular types of things that we've split test so far. And this has been ongoing since like 2015. So I wanted to bring this to the world, and I call it astronomological calendar because it's both astronomy and astrology that I include in the calendar. And there's just tons of data points. In fact, I can kind of show the difference here. So like, you know, on any given day, I'll just kind of scroll up here. You can see that there's all sorts of different information available. And I do have here Llewellyn's Witches calendar, which was kind of the inspiration for this, really. They have totally different calculations, of course, because they're using tropical astrology, but they have far fewer relationships. There's not as much information about the moon or anything else, but it's set up in a very, very similar format to my calendar. And so I had used this calendar for years when I was first practicing witchcraft as a young teenager, and also ended up using it years later before I was aware of biodynamic gardening for different gardening and even like fishing and hunting cycles. And, you know, I would have like maybe 60% success with their information. And so over time, that's what kind of got me using other different calculations. And God, I can't tell you how much time was put into this thing. There is every astronomical event that you can possibly conceive of every single month on this calendar. So it took rounds of me creating all the data, putting it in, going through, checking against other data. I mean, and it's all basically set up to International Astronomical Union data, all of the astronomy stuff. It's all peer reviewed and like as scientifically accurate as we can possibly get. So yeah, anyway, it's cool.
It's insane actually. And you know, this is what I don't understand, like I said, most of what's happening in it, but I need a calendar, right? So I have a calendar. I'm gonna get a calendar. And then I saw that you were doing that, and it has all of this data in it, and some of it I do understand, and then I can learn more as I go as well, which anybody could. But I love to, aside from how awesome this calendar is, I love this about the work you do and the way you think about things too, because you're combining what people would think of as like the magical and the sort of witchy and the whatever with the scientific and the, you know, empirical and the peer reviewed and all of this. And that's exceptionally rare. It's very cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess with the ilk that I kind of run with, it's, you know, just kind of mainstream for us, I guess now. So
that's
I don't
roll.
Really, it's just how I roll. It's just my style. But yeah, seriously though, this thing is so awesome. I mean, I made it for people who were interested in astronomy and just like split testing things, just like myself. So like people traditionally in the alchemical laboratory works, people have worked astrologically for centuries and centuries, you know, ever since probably ancient Egypt, but definitely during the Islamic period of alchemy up until about 1200, and then definitely into the Western European practice of alchemy too, and definitely also in Vedic alchemy and in the Rasa Shastra tradition, they also use astrology. So it's been something that has a kind of like a perennial use and a perennial flow within every alchemical laboratory tradition. And so that's where I first kind of picked up astrology and started looking at it practically. And now I'm so proud to say that I actually have a calendar that shows all of the best planting dates, transplanting dates, sowing dates, harvesting dates, extraction dates, etc., as well as the best dates to engage in any particular alchemical process as well. And so, man, like if I would have had this calendar when I started, it would have accelerated my work and cut so much time out. And same thing with the gardening thing. I mean, I've been split testing these things since like what? I think I got my first house moved in with my old partner in like 2007. So that's when I started doing, lunar gardening, and then, increasing in complexity from there. And yeah, God, it's just really astounding to me. Actually, every time I see a copy of this, I'm still like, damn, I did that. I did that.
That's
It's
so cool.
it's one of those Herculean labors that's just like, oh my God. So yeah, we only have a few left though. And then, we've had some people overseas where they have problems getting shipments from the United States because of unreliable postal service in their country and whatever. And they're like, are you going to make a digital version? The answer is yes. We're waiting till all the physical copies sell out, because I have to go through and publish an entirely new ISBN for the digital copy. And I still don't know if we're going to distribute it on major retail sites. It might just still be available on our site. I just haven't decided those things. So for the time being, we still have some physical copies, and they are currently on sale. I think the coupon code is ASTRO, ASTRO. I hope it's still active as of the time of this broadcast.
I think it was today, so hopefully everybody could just go do it right now, and then they'll get it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So, yep. At any rate, it's really cool. And yeah, if you had any questions about it, like I'd totally be interested in answering those, because I think that that's something that a lot of people who have bought the calendar are probably dealing with. Is like, this is great. There's so much. It's really detailed. And what the hell does it mean?
Well, that would be, I think, a whole course on its own. I feel like just learning everything that has to do with that. Even just looking at, the true sidereal, like you were talking about with Athen Comenti, who is my favorite astrologer too. And I probably found him through you. I'm not sure, but probably. And I love when he gets to come on Rogueways and share with us, his forecasts and stuff, because I, like you, have found, even just in my own chart, when I look at it through True Sidereal, it makes way more sense to me. And there's nothing that's so shockingly different. All the things that I felt in my old chart, they're still there. They're in slightly different ways, but again, make more sense to me. Because there's always some things where I'm like, yeah, I guess, kind of, but then in True Sidereal, I'm like, oh my God, yes, every single thing, yes.
Yeah, see, that's kind of my experience too, is it's like, I felt that tropical astrology was maybe between 60 to 70% on point. And then some of the other things, it's like, yeah, sometimes, I can relate to that sometimes, but it didn't always feel like objectively true. It'd only be like subjective on a couple of points. And when I experienced Athens' work, it was like, oh yeah, this totally makes sense. So, and I had already been on the beat by the time I found Athens. That's why I went on a search. Actually, that's how I found him. I went on a serious search to find all the different forms of sidereal calculation that I could find. And he just so happened to have a great website, with charts that I could use for free and pull them up as a birth chart kind of thing, and test my lab notes and test other things in comparison to Vedic and in comparison to different types of tropical astrology as well. So
you two are so similar too in how very, very intelligent you are, and in how you can, mix those two. What am I trying to even say? Like I feel like blend the creative with the intellectual. There you go. You nailed it. I also imagine your biodynamic farm, like all the plants on it are like a Disney movie, but without the evil of Disney, and they're just like dancing and singing, and they're like so happy because they have exactly what they need. That must be very beautiful.
If they're not doing that, they damn well better be, because we do put in a ton of effort into our work. And this year, we're mostly going to be focusing on herbs. For the last few years, we've been testing out various styles of gardening and the economics of it. And I mean, we've just like poured money into that research over the last few years. And yeah, we have found that for most sites, unless you're going to be a dedicated farm, creating a small household garden with a lot of diversity is not ecologically or economically sustainable, because of the amount of inputs that a person needs to create or whatever else. I mean, you end up spending all of your time to produce less than 25% of your food on an acre in most cases. And if you are making money, then you're taking it to market or selling it to people at a much more inflated price than what people can buy things at the grocery store. And they're choosing to opt into that system because they're supporting that style of agriculture. So we've just found over and over and over and over that unless you're robbing the soil perpetually of nutrients, no matter how effectively you're doing it, how many compost teas, et cetera, on most spaces, it's just not ecologically or economically feasible to grow all of your own food. Not even close. You have to have animals in small acreage in particular in order to be able to meet a lot of it. But it's like, you keep chickens, how many eggs can you really eat every single day?
Yeah.
And how much of your daily food intake do those chicken eggs actually produce, and
how much goes into them to make them too.
Yeah, like a lot of people don't realize the cost associated with just feeding chickens high quality, foods that are going to be rich in nutrients so that they are laying nutrient dense eggs, because if they're not, then you're already losing on the investment,
Yeah, we spoil our chickens. We get them mealworms and their normal food, which makes them not really want their normal food, but and they do eat it. And then we give them snacks like apple cores and different things we gave them squash today and stuff like that. And if I were going to calculate how much that costs, I don't even know if it's worth it at all. I just love them.
Yeah, see, and that's the way that we are too. It's like, okay, keeping you guys around, but we have the luxury to do that. If this were a survival situation, I would need to have a rooster out there. I'd be breeding them like crazy. And which takes away from the amount of eggs that you have for food stuff.
True.
And it's a crazy. And then the time, man. If anybody's ever processed a chicken, once you get good at it, you can do it really fast. But processing a chicken and then storing it, like either freezing it, and ideally you want to vacuum seal it, then freeze it or cook it, freeze dry it, can some of it, as a soup, make bone broth, whatever you're going to do. But it's a whole lot of time investment for that too. You end up just working for your survival. So there's this whole, get off grid movement, which I've been a part of for a long time, and homesteading movement and things like that. And the more experience I have with it, the more I'm like, I understand why things are the way that they are, because you spend your whole life just doing that, just taking care of basic requirements.
That's such a fantastic point. Yeah, I was thinking a lot about that myself too. I'm like, if we really were just going to be completely self-sustainable, like we wouldn't be living anything like what we're living like right now at all.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It does take so much time and effort and space. Well, I want to switch gears a little bit because I want to ask you if, you would like to share with us a mantra of some kind, or a prayer, or a short little practice for people that they can take, in a couple minutes or less to apply in their lives or experience a moment of bliss. Do you have anything like that in mind that you could share with people on Middle Path tonight?
Oh, geez. Maybe if I would have thought about this before coming on the episode. Well, I remember that we've done things like this in the past, and
we could also wait, and if you want to think about it and maybe do it at the end.
Sure. Yeah, let's do that.
Or I can think of something too by the end to do. Well, together We'll come up with something.
That sounds great. Yeah.
Well, and I also, for everybody watching, if you are on YouTube, this is actually a Rockfin exclusive show, so we've given a bit of time to the people over on the other platforms. But if you want to jump over to Rockfin, it's free. It's not, you don't have to pay to get it. It's just only over there. So you can click the link below you and jump over and watch the rest of this amazing show there. And otherwise, we will see you next time. So bye.